Zov Zakaim is a former Undersecretary of Defense in George W. Bush administration and currently senior advisor at Center for Strategic and International Studies. He is now joining us live from Washington, D.C. Zov, welcome to WION World is One. It will be a trip fraught with risks, like we've said, both political and physical. Physical because no one knows when the rockets will strike. It happened to Blinken. The president has often said he feels very comfortable in Israel. But in your view, are the political risks for Biden difficult to measure at this moment?
Well, thank you for having me. My first name is actually Dov, but that's okay. Look, the president is demonstrating a number of things. First, obviously, his support for Israel. Second, that he has guts. Let's be honest. He's going into a war zone. His Secretary of Defense came under, in effect, rocket attack, and he's going ahead anyway. He's certainly going to prove to the American people that no matter how old he is, it's not stopping him from doing what he thinks is right. I've known the president for a very long time when he was a senator. He's been a strong friend of Israel. And I think that what he will be doing there is not simply telling Netanyahu, we have your back. And of course, by sending out a second aircraft carrier, I should point out that allows the Navy to operate on a 24-hour basis. So he could turn around to Netanyahu and say, I'm going to cover you.
Right.
I'm going to help protect you against Hezbollah and even Iran if necessary. But I need something too. And the world needs something too. We need to know that, as I've quoted General David Petraeus, how is this going to end? They're going to send troops in. They're going to try to rescue hostages. They're going to try to kill Hamas leadership. But that's not enough. You've got millions of people who, frankly, need food, water, electricity, need safety. How is Netanyahu going to deal with that? How is Israel going to deal with that? Can we help Israel? I think those are the questions that Mr. Biden is going to put to Netanyahu to his face.
Indeed.
And he's going to demand an answer.
Dov, let me first apologize by calling you Zov. Dov.
No problem.
Israeli officials have said that it is too early to think about Gaza's future because Hamas must be eliminated first. The visits by Biden are partly intended to force Israeli officials to think about how to go into Gaza without getting stuck there and without being seen as indifferent to the Palestinian civilians. Will America's efforts be fruitful?
Well, I hope so. I think the fact that the President of the United States is making an unprecedented trip, risking his life, let's be honest, he's risking his life in order to make a point. If the Israelis, when they say it's too soon to tell, when I quoted General Petraeus, who happens to be a friend of mine and whom I admire, do you know when he said that? Not in 2009. He said it in 2003 when the Iraq operation just began. Tell me how this ends. Now is the time for Israel to say, this is how we think it's going to end. And there are things Israel must do. It must reassure Palestinians, not just in Gaza, but on the West Bank. It must stop settlement expansion. It must stop infrastructure expansion. It must look after the Arab Israelis that are in dire straits inside the Green Line. There are things Israel can do now. And I think Mr. Biden is going to be telling them that.
All right, Dov, finally, what if Israel proceeds with a ground invasion and the outcome turns disastrous? What impact would that have on the United States?
Well, it'll have a negative impact on us, but it'll have a disastrous impact on Israel. It's mobilized 350 or 360,000 young men and women and older men and women to go in and fight. And if they cannot deliver, that is going to undermine Israel's security deterrent. And frankly, because we're so close to Israel, it's going to undermine our deterrent. So that, I think, is a non-starter. The question is the one you put to me. What does Israel do to ensure that it achieves its fundamental aims, releasing hostages, decapitating Hamas, while at the same time giving Palestinians some kind of hope, immediate relief, and a vision for the future?
All right, I've been talking to Dov Zakhaim, he's a former Undersecretary of Defense in George W. Bush administration and currently Senior Advisor at Center for Strategic and International Studies. Dov, thank you for talking to WION World is One today.
Thank you for having me.
WION is now available in your country. Download the app now and get all the news on the move.